we have our distinguished guest, Dr. Chandrasekhara Kambar, President, Kendra Sahitya Academy, and Dr. K. Sreenivasa Rao, Secretary, Kendra Sahitya Academy, and Shri Venkatesh Ramakrishnan, Senior Associate and Editor in Front Line. And we also have Shri Gouri Natesan, Vice President, INDUS, and finally, Shri Varma, the Center of Attraction for today. And the first book to be launched today is Shyam Madhavam, which is translated to English by Anitha Madhavan, titled Lament of the Dusky Lord. This book portrays Lord Krishna as infinitely humane, inconsolably repentant, and unflinchingly critical of his mortal incarnation. And the second book, Kanal chilampu, is translated to English by K M Ajir as Anklet of Fire. And it's a tragic tale of love, lust, greed, and revenge. Finally, few words about the poet, who indeed needs no introduction. But still, Shri Varma is a well-known poet, lyricist, and a media personality. To his credit, there are several prestigious awards, like the Kendra Sahitya Academy Award, Vailar Award, and he's also the recipient of the Best Lyricist Award in Malayalam. As a journalist, he has won the State Government Award for the Best General Reporting, Media Trust Award, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Award, and Dr. Madhavan Award for the Best Feature in English. And so, now let us begin the program with the address of the President of Kendra Sahitya Academy, and I welcome Shri Chandrasekhara Kambar to address the audience. If you're comfortable, you can come here or okay. Great.
I would like to congratulate Shri Varma, my colleague at the National Academy of Letters, for having brought out this brilliant work, which bagged Academy Award long back. I take this opportunity to compliment Mrs. Anitha Madhavan, who translated Shyam Madhavan to English, and Sri Gouri Shankar and Dr. Shivkumar, who took the initiative to publish Shyam Madhavan in English. And I am also expecting this beautiful work to be translated into Kannada, and I am waiting for that. This brilliant poetic fantasy spans in 15 chapters. Each chapter in this is a complete poem in itself, and together they create a comprehensive sense. This aesthetic experience is not to be confined to the readers of vernacular only, hence it has become inevitable to deliver and transcribe these verses to English, the most accepted international language. The translation titled Lament of the Dusky Lord, like the original, stands unique and exceptional. The leading poet himself is a multifaceted scholar, an eminent journalist, political thinker, and popular lyricist for Malayalam cinema. No wonder he went down the complex journey through the mind of Sri Krishna, one of the central characters of Mahabharata. He recreates Krishna with a new perception, setting off his aura of divinity and depicts him as a human being full of love, compassion, and understanding, as well as remorse for his devotion from the path of righteousness that caused vast atrocities and destructions in the field of Kurukshetra. The poet unravels the thoughts of Krishna as the Lord awaits his imminent worldly end after being struck by the arrow of a wild hunter. Before the light of life is about to leave him, it dawns on him that there is not a moment left for him to undo all that has happened, and this realization gives him immense mentally effort. The author, through his wordcraft, brings before the reader the aspects of characters Krishna. Krishna had sinned against and had directed course of their lives as appearing before him one by one. One such is the touching picturization of Krishna standing before Gandhari, who is even unable to seek her forgiveness for his sins, and tells her that he had accepted her verses without a word, excuse or justification, admitting that he deserved them all. Krishna is portrayed as one who pretends to have forgotten all about the Gita when Arjuna appears once again to immerse himself into the nectar of Bhagavad Gita, and tells that what Arjuna had said at that time of revelation was the real Gita. Shama Madhavan. Shama Madhavan is translated by Anitha Madhavan, former Deputy Registrar, University of Kerala. She is a bi-directional translator and creative writer. She has made great effort to understand the original work and go deep into the thoughts and imaginations of the poet. The characters depicted in the book are complete and thought-provoking, and the translator has taken great pain to do justice to them in her work. Rather than following a word-by-word translation, she had adopted a technique of her own that compares with the original work of poetry. Her style is lucid and simple, making the poem a great reading. I am sure that this work will introduce a great work in Malayalam poetry to a vast international readership. I thank and I congratulate Varma, Varma, for all this effort and good work that remains. And I am waiting for its translation in Kannada. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhara Kambar. And now we have Dr. K. Sreenivasa Rao, Secretary, Sahitya Academy.
Respected Shri Arif Mohammed Khan, Honorable Governor of Kerala, respected Professor Chandrasekhara Kambar, President of Sahitya Academy, Shri Varma, the other dignitaries of the dais, of the dais. Friends, in everyone's lifetime, people are likely to find and interact with great writers or distinguished poets, or best critics, or scientists, or philosophers, and so on. But what about a person who is all of these rolled into one? That is, friends, Shri Prabha Varma for you. I have known Shri Prabha Varma ji for a decade and a half. I'm always amazed at his polymathic capabilities. Shri Prabha Varma is a poet, writer, journalist, editor, lyricist, social activist, critic, scholar, thinker, philosopher, and wonderful administrator. Shri Prabha Varma, please tell me the secret of how you are able to wear so many hats effortlessly, as I will benefit wearing one or two of them. Regarding his works, his poetry especially appears to be the bridge between tradition and modernity. Poetic richness is something he naturally possesses. Also, I have observed that he is the Indian version of best of Britain's understatedness. He is not some dry philosopher or armchair theorist or poet of imagination. His works reflect, among many things, his humanist heart. Whether his poetry collections or novels or critical essays or travelogues, they all reveal one thing, the core of his heart that loves humanity more than anything else. Whether Shyam Madhavam, just now our president has mentioned, is a Mohrama of us and for which he has conferred with Sahitya Academy Award for the year 2016, or Kanal Chilampu, though they are set in entirely different background and novella in verses reflect the inner realities of life, whether Lord is there or not. His Drishya Madhyamangalam Samskaramam is another wonderful study, and I sincerely hope all his works get translated into English and Hindi over a period of time. It's a very coincidence that yesterday only the Shyam Madhavam we have released in Tamil. The translation was done by none other than very eminent author and translator in Tamil, Sreenivasa Rao. So in a week, is the English version and also Tamil, and as our president has mentioned, very soon the Kannada also. That will not merely project the Prabha Varma into national and international scene, but also promote Kerala culture among various traditions and cultures across the country. For everything he has written is rooted deeply into that culture. About his greatness as a writer, poet, etc., we all know. Here, I would like to say a few words about Shri Prabha Varma's role in enriching Malayalam literature and culture through his association with Sahitya Academy as a member of Malayalam Advisory Board and now as Executive Board member. Shri Prabha Varma has been instrumental in our getting so many young talents sporting at regional and national level. He has got that eye to spot a raw talent, sharpen the edges, and then launch at appropriate forums. Not all can do that, and kudos to Shri Prabha Varma for doing this so meticulously and selflessly. I also thank him on this occasion for making the Malayalam Advisory Board of Sahitya Academy a very vibrant and exciting one. We are also fortunate to have among with us one of our General Council member, Ajit Kumar, who is also Advisory Board member of Sahitya Academy. And also this program is being hosted by Kannada Advisory Board convener, Sattu Karkar, which also there. I'm also happy that he got the National Award for the Best Lyricist. If I am not wrong, he is the fourth Malayali to receive this award after Vaila, ONV in 1988 and Yusuf Ali Chechri in 2000. So after the wait of 2 decades, Kerala got a National Award for Best Lyricist, thanks to Shri Prabha Varma. His role as press secretary and media advisor to the Chief Minister for almost a decade now speaks volumes about his ability and his polymathic capacity that I just spoke about. I don't want to take much of your time. Once again, I congratulate Prabha Varma for getting released 2 of his very important publications into English so that a wider audience can read Prabha Varma. Thank you.
Dr. K. Sreenivasa Rao. Now I request Shri Venkatesh Ramakrishnan, Senior Editor Front Line, to address the audience.
Honorable Governor, Sahitya Academy President, Kambar, dear friend, Dr. Varma, guests on the dais, my dear friends. I must raise on record two things before I address the people in this. One is that I told Varma when he said that I have to be one of the recipients of the book this function. Told him that I'm feeling really honored that he was thought of me. There are many reasons for me to say that. One of the basic factors is that I and Prabha Varma, we go back a very long way. In fact, I started my journalism career in the early 1980s in the same organization as Varma. And as a young cub reporter, I always used to look up to the kind of coverage, the kind of language that Varma used to display on the papers, on the pages of the paper. And 2 years into my profession, in 1985, I had the occasion to be sitting next to him at the Delhi office. So because of this long association, the other fact that I need to place on record, the confession that I need to make, is that we could be able to confine the time limit that a function like this kind of puts before us, especially when it comes to somebody like Varma, who is a very dear friend, a dear colleague, and somebody who, of course, have seen, conquer new areas of creativity every passing year or month or day. A couple of years ago, Varma had forwarded some attempts at translation of some of his works for me to take a look. And then I went through it. It took some time going through it. And I responded to him saying that Varma is not very satisfied with what you have sent me. Like all great works of art, Varma's poetry, especially poetry, I'm not talking about his articles. He's also written a lot of articles for the daily, and also many compilations have come. Also, he has written pieces like doctrines on the relationship between media and culture. All these things may be translatable, but Varma's poetry, the way it has been written, like all great works of art, is simply translatable. It is something which I have seen. I have seen in the great masters of Malayalam literature, Gyan or VK, or all the great masters of various regional languages. For example, one of the major things that apparently led to Gabriel Garcia Marquez's global acceptance was that he had a good translator. I have not gone through the current translations which are being published at this point of time, but then I'm certain that even our interaction, Varma must have kept that also in mind, and these translations would somehow capture the spirit and the verve of Varma's poetry and literature. So, as Mr. Raju was saying, Varma wears many hats. and also understatement for the kind of muted gravity is what you get to see from him. But when we were together in Deshabimani during those years in the mid 1980s, we were two sides, two distinctly different people. I was kind of very voluble, outgoing, and vociferous. Varma was always laid back, and Varma was staid. But one good thing was, in my exuberance, in my kind of outgoing personality, I used to make a lot of mistakes, both personal as well as professional. And at every time, at these junctures, Varma's grave and brotherly affection towards me used to kind of, lead me in the right direction. There are many occasions where I would have become extremely wayward, but for my senior colleagues at the study at that point of time. I'm so happy that that I'm receiving the very book that is my most favorite of Varma's. As I was telling you, I'm not able to stop within the confines of the time. I'm sorry. So one thing that I have always noticed in Varma the journalist, Varma the writer, Varma the poet, is that he came from, both of us came from essentially from a particular stream of politics in Kerala, which has had a lot of doctrinaire elements, almost sectarian elements, and very structured. And there were people who were not given to any kind of introspection at all. But at every point of time, whether it was journalism, whether it was social activism, and whether it was literature, the quality of introspection and tremendous philosophical contemplation is something that is reflected in Varma's work after work after work. And Shyam Madhavam, I think, is a epitome of that kind of reflection, the kind of the way he reinterprets the character of Krishna, or the character of Krishna is simply outstanding. And as the introductory remarks, this the person who introduced all of us to this audience, as she very rightly said, Shyam Madhavam is a combination of very diverse emotional facets as well as deep philosophical traits. And I'm so happy that I'm receiving that very book from the Honorable Governor. As I was telling you, I can go on and on, but the occasion is not right at this time. I hope that I will get an opportunity to kind of dwell at length on Varma's literature, Varma's poetry, and my own very long association with him.
Thank you, Shri Venkatesh Ramakrishnan. And now I request Shri Gouri Natesan, Vice President, INDUS, to address the audience.
His Excellency Shri Arif Mohammed Khan, Honorable Governor of Kerala, Dr. Chandrasekhara Kambar, President of Sahitya Academy, Dr. Sreenivasa Rao, Secretary, Sahitya Academy, Shri Venkatesh Ramakrishnan, Senior Associate Editor Front Line, Shri Damodaran, President of Jansanskriti, our esteemed author, Shri Prabha, friends and colleagues in the audience, and all of this large online. It is my privilege to welcome all of you today for the release of the books Anklet of Fire and Lament of the Dusky Lord. It is befitting that His Excellency Shri Arif Mohammed Khan, Honorable Governor of Kerala, has consented to release both these books and deliver the presidential address. I wholeheartedly welcome His Excellency to this large function on behalf of INDUS. I welcome Dr. Chandrasekhara Kambar, President of Sahitya Academy, who has ensured his availability for this large function. I welcome Dr. Sreenivasa Rao, Secretary of Sahitya Academy, and thank him for his presence in this function. I thank Shri Venkatesh Ramakrishnan, Senior Associate Editor Front Line, for his presence here today and welcome him to the panel. I'll just take a few minutes to introduce our company. Newton Knowledge Works has been a leading presence in the publishing services space, catering to various international publishers across the globe for over 2 decades. We specialize in legal publishing, developing proprietary technology solutions, as well as managing the editorial, design, manufacturing, and distribution of print and online publications. Over the last 3 to 5 years, we've been looking at becoming a publisher ourselves. And Think Minds Media is the publishing arm of music, and INDUS its input. Around a year or so back, if my memory serves me right, I was introduced to Shri Varma by a mutual friend, Dr. Mishra. This was the starting point of our journey in INDUS, publishing his 2 books of poetry, Lament of the Dusky Lord and Anklet of Fire. The original versions are in Gyan. Being in publishing, I have always wondered what drives an author to write. I think I found the answer in Shri Varma's speech on receiving the award of the Indian National Academy of Letters for Shyam, translated into English as Lament of the Dusky Lord. I quote, "Writers write. Is it for recognition which may or may not be conferred on them by those who are in power? No, not at all. Even if there is no one to recognize, writers will write. Was it for laurels that Valmiki wrote? Did Vyasa expect any award when he penned the Mahabharata? No. Writers write. They have no option but to write. However, writing has a role to play. It makes our lives livable. It converts Homo sapiens into human beings. It makes this earth a little more habitable. It suits the minds that are living in pain." Again, referring to the same speech, Shri Varma's question to a renowned English poet was, "Do poems serve any purpose in our lives?" Well, after that, Shri Varma's ruminations over a few lines he happened to come across later convinced him that poems can work for us. The lines run like this: Sukhavam Dukhavam Anubhava Kalam Voyalsamam. Meaning, happiness remains happiness only when we experience it. Sorrow remains sorrow only when we experience it. A few words about the books. First, the Anklet of Fire. It is said that in the time of Kalidasa, there was a written that posed the question, why did the milkmaid laugh despite her pot well falling down and breaking into pieces? While this may or may not have been true, the riddle may have been attributed to Kalidasa or someone else. There is no certainty around this. No answer to any riddle. But the Anklet of Fire is a poetic attempt to find a unique and creatively original answer to this riddle. Next, Lament of the Dusky Lord. I quote a few lines from Shri K Jayakumar's introduction to the book. He says, and I quote, "The book celebrates the efflorescence of this modern sensibility, diction, and critical insights, while delving deep into the personality, conflict, and destiny of Sri Krishna, one of the most powerful and complex characters in world. All these contradictions and complexities find their crystalline expression in the personality of Lord Krishna. Sri Varma perceptively zooms on Krishna and pivots the poems around the last few moments of that. The abiding appeal of this book arises from its engagement with the essential nature of the book. I would like to take this opportunity to once again thank Shri Varma for his excellent support and cooperation during our production process. And on behalf of INDUS, I would like to wish him the very, very best. Once again, welcome to one and all to this very special launch function today.
Thank you, Shri Gauri Shankar narration. And now we have the release of books. And His Excellency Shri Arif Mohammed is humbly requested to release the book by handing over the first copy of Anklet of Fire to Shri Venkatesh Ramakrishnan, Senior Associate Editor, Front Line.
Take the photo.
And now we have the release of the book Lament of the Dusky Lord by handing over the first print to Dr. Chandrasekhara Kambar, President of Sahitya Academy.
Just cover it in the paper. Either it
Thank you all. And now I request His Excellency Shri Arif Mohammed Khan, Honorable Governor of Kerala, to enlighten us with his words.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you very much. Dr. Chandrasekhara Kambar is inside. Dr. Sreenivasa Rao, Secretary Sahitya Academy. Venkatesh Ramakrishnan. Shri Gouri Natesan, Vice President of INDUS. Shri Sahodari Sahodari, Namaskar. I am absolutely delighted to address this meeting of the release. I was told one book, Anklet of Fire, but two books, that's the bonus. Thank you very much. English language of Kanal, chilampu. And what is the name of the second book originally? Varma. Shyam. A novel in verse. I'm informed that this work is one of the three novels Shri Arif has written in verse. My speech says that it's good to know that the other two are also being translated, but now we have already. I would like to applaud Shri K M Ajir on this remarkable literary achievement. I must admit that during last 2 years in Trivandrum, I have developed special fondness and affection for Bengali, and I hope he won't mind my saying that as a friend I feel proud. We all know Indian politics has defined poetry as well compositions meant to be read aloud, heard, and performed. Shri Varma's composition Anklet of Fire is an artistic attempt to meet all these requirements, and I hope both these works, which have been released today, will stand the test of time, finding its rightful place in Indian literature. Our scriptures, Upanishads, and the epics of most traditions, they are in verse form. Maybe that is why many people believe that poetry is superior to prose, and it has been rightly asserted that prose is words in their best order, and the poetry is the best words in the best order. Yet the poetic format for a novel is not very common in Malayalam. or other languages, mostly due to the great efforts and levels of imagination required. We have heard of Eugene Onegin or Onegin, while Alexander Pushkin, the beautiful verse narrative. It was only a few years ago that Indian writer Vikram Seth enthralled readers with the verse novel Golden Age. Malayalam has been fortunate that poet and Gyan Peet Awardee Professor Gouri Natesan had experimented with verse form in his book Pgme, a biographical work on the life of poet Kalidas. Quite recently, Shri K M Ajir had published an account of our freedom struggle in verse form, which I released few months ago. Shri Varma has employed his erudition to write novels in verse and has become a prominent name in the list of Malayalam writers who use this genre of expression. I'm very happy and I have said I'm proud of you, but I'm not surprised because Kerala has this great tradition. Dr. Krishnan has mentioned that a young girl from Kerala goes to Tirupati, young girl about 14, 15 years old, and she's not a published poet. And here she composes 4 lines. Besides love, is Ratana Karastavya Jaya Chalakshmi Kim Deyam Asti Bhakti Purushottamai Abhir Gopalalna Iti Manasaya Dattam Manome Goritam Giraha. She says there, your abode is Ratnakar, which is full of pearls. Your better half is Lakshmi, prosperity, goddess prosperity. So what can I offer you? But one thing I know, that your heart has been stolen or is with the copy of Vrindavan. The only thing I can offer you is Rattam Manome, Koritam Gira. So I am offering you my heart, and don't delay in accept. So Kerala has this great tradition. Therefore, I am not surprised that all these books are coming. You have already referred to the review of Kalidas. Therefore, I won't repeat it. And Adi Kavi Maharshi Valmiki, he has told us what produces poetry. He says the shloka comes from shore, and he sees this bird being killed by a hunter. So when your soul is injured, then poetry comes. When you feel the pain of others, then poetry comes. And Garbhaji, I'm sure, he has that feeling, he has that capability to feel. That's why he's so successful. Kalidas has defined poet as Rudita no Sari, one who pursues a cry or sorrow to bring solace to the world. The Anklet of Fire ends on a tragic note, but it also celebrates the triumph of women over adversities. It bestows on women a rare sense of direction and helps them rediscover the latent power in them
to live a life of their choice, braving odds. Shri Prabha Varma's work dwells on how a series of tragedies befall a woman who ultimately is fortified from within by tragic experiences, and she looks upon life with a rare detachment. The narrative unfolds through the words of a fortune teller of how the vagaries of life trample over the fate of an enchantingly beautiful woman, coveted by a king who exiles her husband. Her son, who was like the bud of a golden lotus, was abandoned to die a tragic death. With the king, she bears a child and proves a real reigning queen. But the embers of revenge light up as her exiled husband returns in disguise, and she bravely waves a cutlass to slice the king. But the cruel dance of tragedy continues, with her husband dying of a snake bite, she being savagely defied by gangsters, and eventually thrown into a brothel to be gifted daily to wealthy merchants, and finally to be sought by her own son, born to the king. Cringing as though showered with live coals, she jumps into a fire of her own making, from which she is rescued half burnt. Rendered useless in brothel, she is condemned to live in a slum, selling milk to earn her bread. It was that pot of milk which sustained her daily life that fell and broke into bits. But surprising everyone, she laughed instead of crying over the broken pot and the spilled milk. Here it is clear that what the poet saw was not just the smile or the laughter, but the unfathomable sorrow that lay beneath its deceiving spark. What resonates here is the poet's radical question: why should a milkmaid cry when her life itself had already been ravaged and mauled by men of power, depravity, and inhuman devotion? To quote a line from the book, what if the milk pot of her existence is completely broken already? Coming back to the riddle, I am reminded of an expression in drama, beyond sorrow. The tragic hero or heroine reaches a certain limit of sorrow or loss that any more misfortune will not bring, even a drop of tear. And here, what has been said in Mahabharata also becomes important. Jivitam maranam jobe sukha dukhe tathe cha labha labhe priya deveshe ya sama sacha uchete. Who has risen above the duality of life and death, suffering and happiness, gain and loss, love and hate? Such a person is a free person. Thinking from the modern psychological point of view, we may recall the belief that our psychological recovery from a crisis is facilitated by the physical, emotional, and temporal distance we can attain. The milkmaid here has seen and transcended the duality of life, and her laughter perhaps reflects her detachment, but we are not certain about what goes in her mind. And it has also been said that uncertainty is the beauty of life. This first novel throws a spark of uncertainty into our minds, thereby snowballing the heating intensity of that idyll which humanity has been carrying over for centuries. While discussing poetry, it is natural to ponder over the social role of literature. Our former President Dr. Radhakrishnan has said the aim of literature is the good of the world, Vishshreya Kavyam. Its purpose is not to reflect the world, but to redeem the world. It is not to mirror the glinting surfaces of giving, but to recreate the experience. Indian tradition also asserts that in this poisonous world, there are only two fruits of incomparable value, and they are literature and communion with great minds. Sansar vish virakshasya, hui phale amritopame, kavya amrit saswada, sallapa sajjana neksa. What Shri Varma has done is a poetic recreation of an experience that reflects the legendary feminine angst against injustice in all its horror and pathos. It's a social cause well served. Readers will thank Shri Varma for involving them in this ongoing quest for the answer to a riddle which has appeared in several folk tales and continues to kindle our imagination. Anklet of Fire is a poignantly tragic tale of love, lust, greed, and revenge, written in a lucid and captivating style which entertains and enriches anyone interested in reading insightful fiction in verse. Shri Varma is not only a poet and a lyricist, but also a seasoned media person with an impressive track record of parliamentary and other types of coverage, which has already been mentioned. It would be unfair if I do not mention the contribution of Shri K M Ajir, who has beautifully transformed Kanal in Malayalam to Anklet of Fire in English, and I am not aware who has translated Shyam. Anitha Madhavan. So I would like to congratulate them both. I am informed that Shri Ajir is an award-winning writer whose translations into English of Malayalam poetry and fiction have been published in highly reputed publications. My best wishes to both the translators and publishers of the book Indus publishers. Let us hope that the jingle of the Anklet of Fire will resonate in Indian future, inspiring readers and writers alike for long. I wish him Varma and his books all success. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Valve Nandi. Jai Hind.
Thank you, His Excellency Shri Arif Mohammed Khan, Honorable Governor of Kerala, for enlightening us with his kind words. And now comes the much awaited moment, and I request Shri Prabha Varma to come and address the audience.
His Excellency Shri Arif Mohammed Khan, Dr. Jansanskriti Delhi, Dr. Sreenivasa Rao, Shri Gouri Natesan, and my dear Venkatesh Ramakrishnan. Distinguished guests, dear friends, poetry lovers, and well-wishers. I am extremely delighted to be here with you this evening. I'm extremely delighted to be here with you this evening on the occasion of two of my creative poetic compositions, two novels in English, to be exact, being released in their English translations. I come from Kerala, a speck of a state in this vast, great country of glorious traditions and mind-blowing diversities. My state, in the southernmost tip of our nation, speaks Malayalam, a great classical language that has produced some of our best, valued, and lasting literacies. As many of you are aware, the first provincial language into which the great Bhagavad Gita was translated was Malayalam. This translation was in the 14th century by Anitha Madhavan, who is one among the triumvirate which is known as Niranam poets, as they all had settled in Kerala, the very place from where I came. The first recipient of the coveted Gyan Peet was a Malayali, the eminent poet Shri K. The desire of our vernacular literatures or Bhasha literatures to be carried across the borders the world over is quite natural and genuine. Hence, these translations of my works also in English. I have been into poetry making for more than 5 decades. My humble works of all these 50 years voices the fears and dilemmas of these dark times in which we all live, not to mention the broken dreams of post-independent India, the mindless exploitation of Mother Nature, the restlessness caused by existential puzzles, and the hopes of a bright sunrise somewhere powerful enough to dispel the darkness and despair surrounding us. Serious poetry readers, genuine literary buffs, and sharp-minded critics have been very kind and responsive to my work. My Malayalam poems in translation in English, Sanskrit, Arabic, Hindi, and Tamil, among other languages, have appeared in reputed literary journals over the years. However, this is the first time that two of my book-length works have been brought out in their English translations. These books have been published by INDUS Publishers, an imprint of New Gen Knowledge Works Chennai. As I stand here to express my sincere thanks to the distinguished personalities who have taken part in this function, at which my books Anklet of Fire and Lament of the Dusky Lord have been launched this evening, it will not be appropriate for me to go on elaborating on my poetic mission. Let the world decide about it. I express my heartfelt thanks to His Excellency Shri Arif Mohammed Khan, the Honorable Governor of Kerala, for kindly consenting to release my books Anklet of Fire and Lament of the Dusky Lord by handing over the first prints to Sri Venkatesh Ramakrishnan and Dr. Chandrasekhara Kambar respectively. The Governor, as you know, is a highly respected scholar and administrator whose concern for our values needs no introduction. That is quite evident from the way in which he spoke just now. We all know that the Honorable Governor has a genuine liking for the changing sensibilities of modernity and a mind that understands and appreciates the subtle nuances of poetry that enriches our life. I really don't know how to thank Shri Arif Mohammed Khan for taking time off his busy schedule to read my humble works of poetry in their English translation and say most encouraging and enlightening words about them. I am lucky to have Sri Chandrasekhara Kambar, one of the greatest writers that our country has given birth to, who heads the National Academy of Letters, the Sahitya Academy in Business. I am deeply touched by the presence of Sri Venkatesh Ramakrishnan, Senior Associate Editor Front Line, and a long-time friend of mine. I thank both Sri Kambarji and Venkatesh for agreeing to receive the first copies of Lament of the Dusky Lord and Anklet of Fire respectively. when Shyam, the original Malayalam work on which Lament of Dusky Lord is based, was published, it had generated much heat by way of controversies. Perhaps it may be for the first time in any literature that the humane aspects of Lord Krishna is portrayed and psychologically analyzed. Anklet of Fire is a woman-centered writing that depicts the pathetic predicaments of women in a world of man's supremacy and power. I do not wish to go into the details of the themes right now. The work itself is the best known answer to its bitter critics. I remain grateful to Dr. K. Sreenivasa Rao, Secretary Sahitya Academy, for offering felicitations at this August ceremony. I could not have published these books without the generous cooperation and coordination of Sri Gouri Natesan, head of publishing at INDUS, who also welcomed the gathering with an enlivening speech. Last but not least, I am indebted to the translators, Mrs. Anitha Madhavan and Mr. Ajeer kutty, for ably moving my novels in verse into English tongue. Both the translators are writers in their own right and have published the books apart from publishing their works in highly regarded journals, including the Sahitya Academy's own Indian literature. The Jansanskriti deserves special mention for hosting the book launch in the national capital. Finally, I do want to thank each and every one of you for attending and making this function truly memorable. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Prabha. And now we come to the last part of today's event, and we conclude with the recital of National Anthem. And for this, I welcome our young artists, Kirtana, Avantika, and Varsha.